Welcome al podcast de Palante Nonprofits. I'm your host, Andrea Ortega, y estoy super excited to dive into the world of nonprofits.
Hola y bienvenidos. Welcome to the Palante Nonprofit Podcast. Today we're joined by Sheahan, McElroy. I'm so excited. What a mouthful, but I love your name. And I'm so excited to have you here as a new consultant of Palante Nonprofits with over a decade of experience in prospect research and donor strategy. And I have been dying to do this with you because people need to see how brilliant you are. So I'm so excited that you're here and that we get to talk about, as you know, I'm very passionate about breaking, kind of the barriers to our smaller grassroots and BIPOC-led orgs, the knowledge that that is in philanthropy nowadays that has been for many years around gatekeeping, the way fundraising strategies should be, the real tricks and tips around that prospect research and donor strategy. But, you have supported organizations from all sizes, from grassroots to large. So you worked at a university, corporate foundations, and so helping them to uncover and understand people and funders who are most aligned with their mission. You have a master's degree in philanthropic leadership, which would love to learn more about that. But you also have a deep expertise in building prospect pipelines and bringing clarity and strategy to the fundraising process. I'm really happy to have you here. Anything you'd like to add in your intro before we get started?
Too kind. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And it's nice to be here. Nice to be part of the Palante team. I'm really excited and so fun.
I love it. I love it. I'm really excited because you have a lot of knowledge. Like, I also think that like my fundraising background is very scrappy. I've done from like the car washes to I dressed as a pizza and sold it at like universities. So like, but I've also done big galas, and then I've also served corporate. But I think, because of the space where you've been and really, that to me, there's like fundraising and then there's philanthropy. And philanthropy has its own world that I really can't wait for you to tap into with this conversation. And so, with that, let's get started. Can you tell me what is prospect research, why it's so critical and often overlooked, right? Because many people focus on the people already in their network and environment. But tell me a little bit more about what it is and how do you deal with it? What does it entail?
Yeah, so prospect research is basically looking for information on donors to help inform not just your bottom line, but your strategy and find donors that are really aligned with your mission. It also, I think there's a bit of a misconception that it's exclusively finding new donors, but a large part of it is finding information on your current donors to try and like further your relationship with them and stay current on what they're interested in, what they're giving to, and really maintain that like genuine relationship. Information really runs the gamut. It could be anything from like company acquisitions and sales, real estate, grant cycles. If you're looking at an organization, if you're looking at an individual, it could be anything from like their wealth to their art collection or anything else they own, stocks. It's just really anything that goes into how much they have and how much they could potentially give you. And this information helps you prioritize at your outreach and your strategy because you're kind of able to tailor things to what they're interested in and what you need and try to find that balance of everything. And that works for all funding streams. So it's not just individuals, it's for grants, it's for government grants, it's for individuals as well, like I said, and corporate. It's all kind of in the same vein of finding that information to help inform your strategy and get the most up-to-date information on you. One big misconception is that it's stalking. It's not stalking. To be very clear, everything has clear ethical guidelines in prospect research and uses publicly available information exclusively. Any private information that comes from a donor comes from like a fundraiser or comes directly from the donor, and that's kept very, very confidential. Databases locked down. Nothing is escaping.
I love that you take the time to define that, right? That it's like public records and things that are widely available. Where do you start with that prospect research? At what point does it start? Does it start with just a Google search? Does it go as far as like LinkedIn? Like, tell me more.
I'll tell all the secrets. I mean, to your point, I mean, part of why I like working with you so much is because I also don't want to gatekeep information because anybody can do this, right? Like, there's a misconception that research is for like big shops, and it's really not. It's just that it's a bandwidth fit. I know, right? Like, in my opinion, it's a bandwidth issue. because usually research rolls into the fundraiser's job when really they should be out there like doing what they do best and getting money locked down, right? Anybody can start anywhere, and my number one is Google. Like you can find so much in Google. You can find information on tax forms, you can find information on individuals. LinkedIn is huge because similar to journalism, there's like there's first person sources, things that come directly from them, and then there's those secondary sources that back up the first. And when you think about it, somebody's LinkedIn is a public display of their work information, right? So that's them being like, yeah, I worked here. This is when I worked here. This is when I went to this school. And finding those little nuggets or kind of getting to tailor your search engine keywords. Keyword searching is huge for this sort of thing. That'll go so far. Like, for example, if you're looking at a grant, if you're trying to look at an organization and see, like, do we fit? Do we actually align with what they're doing, seeing how they define their programs, and then just doing a control F if you're on a PC. I don't remember what it is on a Mac, but in their annual report, and then seeing like, do they like food pantries or something, say that they call it hunger. Control F and see like who have they given to for hunger? Okay, how much have they given? Now I know how much I can apply for and kind of building on that and tailoring what you do, like tailoring what you do to their language. But you can do a ton with just Google. I've worked at places where we've had that cost tens of thousands of dollars. And I've worked at places where I just had Google and IRS documents, and both were effective. Just depends on what you're looking for and why. But anybody could do it. You could even set up Google alerts for like grants plus program area if that's what you're looking for, or like news alerts for corporations that have done this and given to similar organizations. If there's an organization that does the same thing that you do, see who's giving to them and then reach out to them. That's like a pretty, that's an easy one to just start, and then you'll kind of know the baseline and you can just start reaching out. Because yeah, this is not, it's like a specialized skill if you're like an individual, but it doesn't mean that it's impenetrable. Like anybody could do it. It's just kind of knowing what you want to look for, which sounds a little counterintuitive, but if you know what you want to fundraise for and then starting from there, then it's so much easier to find things in individuals.
Love that. And I just want to thank you so much for sharing those little snippets. And I hope more people listening would love to work more with you because I think I love the clarity that you bring to the process too. Because one of the reasons I know that we talked when you were going to join the team is that I'm not the type of consultant to build something for you to try to keep you on. Like the goal is to train your team and fortify your organization. And that includes like if you're going to come and do prospect research, like you can be realistic. Like, do you want this up to be long term or do you want to maybe come in and really like amplify your team and your organization? And it could be done at the same time or it can be done in different ways. So I love what you shared just then. So my next question is, I guess it's a little bit of what I asked, but if an organization needs to go from some raw donor data, right, and take that information and go to a clear, actionable fundraising strategy, what are some of the things that you look for to set that up?
Yeah, I think the first thing that I look for is those consistent donors and seeing who they are and why they give. A big thing that I do in my research is looking for authentic alignment because so much time can be spent throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. And that is so much time and effort for organizations and places that just don't have that kind of time. Like their time is better spent doing the programs or fundraising elsewhere or something. But that helps you be more intentional about what you're already getting. And then I think that helps you determine what you don't have at the same time. So maybe there's like a program that you want to raise funds for, and you look at all your data after you crunch it, and you see like, oh, we have a lot of donors for all of our other programs except this one. So then you know to focus your fundraising on this other program, you know, because you see already like we've got the support here. Then that'll also tailor your support maybe for stewardship for those programs instead of outreach, and you get to kind of pick and choose how you want to go things or go about fundraising, period. Just gives you a better idea of where you're at, what you need. And in my opinion, it also helps prevent mission creep because if you have a really clear idea of who's in your fundraising pool, then you're not asking everybody for something, right? You're looking specifically at your programs and what you need and what your goals are. And I think that helps define things a lot more easily because it can show the gaps, right? Like it just having clear data is just so much better. I've worked at places where you've had like 6 or 10 spreadsheets, physical papers, all saying the same thing, but knowing who's in your database, what they care about, and why they're connected to you, like what that personal connection is. And that is a huge foundation to get to your goals and define your goals more clearly.
Either have the time or it feels like this thing that's really hard to do, but it could really help to be more strategic around their fundraising. And I think that's something that we, especially the organizations I work that are very grassroots and Hispanic led, we don't take the time to do that.
Mm.
So our next question is, tell me a little bit about how that prospect research, right? So we've talked about how to get that research, how to maybe use the data to do more with it, but like, what does it mean to build more long-term relationships instead of those one-time gifts? Because I feel like that's also where people struggle. They got a check, they got a gift. Now they don't know, like, oh my God, should we send them birthday cards? Should we like be giving them I think that stewardship is also a part of like how to use the data you have to really steward. There are donors who don't even want you to do anything. So
Hmm.
then how do you make the ask again, right? So like would love to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think you're touching on what I really believe with this is just trusting your donors and really listening to them because you don't want to ask them for something maybe that they've never given to. Or conversely, say that they've always done general support. You can maybe be like, I noticed you always give generally. This is what we really need. And asking them to kind of go with you when the opportunity is right. But looking for the authentic alignment, like I was saying before, finding your champions and really seeing why they're interested in you. Like you mentioned your story and advancing the mission in that way. Donors give because they care, and knowing why somebody cares about you is so huge. And then it takes it from like this check to a person. And then that's a person that you want to have a relationship with and steward and get to be with in this capacity for years. To that point, one thing that I've always thought is don't discount smaller gifts. I think maybe this was more of a problem at my larger organizations that I worked at, but a lot of times places would say, oh, we've only gotten $10 from somebody. We're not going to do any kind of stewardship. It's like, no, you need to steward your $10 people. Send them a thank you email. Send them a copy of your annual report if it's over like maybe a $25 threshold or something like that. Make it a digital report so it's cheaper. Things like that. Because one thing that I heard a lot when I worked at large institutions was somebody would make a ton of money somewhere. A fundraiser would go to approach them for a gift, and the person would say, well, I've been giving since whenever. Why didn't you call me sooner? And making people feel appreciated at the beginning and in a really genuine way and showing like this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it. Thank you for what you do to support us. And not in a transactional way because like it is technically a transaction, but like we're not groveling, right? We're saying thank you. We're saying like you're supporting us. Genuinely, you're helping us keep doing what we're doing. But if you just listen to them, that goes so far. Like knowing what they're interested in and being able to tailor your approach to that. Like even, even reaching out when it doesn't have anything to do with fundraising, I find huge. If there's like a large life event, maybe you see publicly or somebody tells you, you can reach out and be like, hey, congratulations on your new position. I saw this on LinkedIn. I hope you're doing well. Just connecting on a human level, I think really helps with that long-term authentic alignment and makes it more of a partnership instead of that transaction.
Yeah, and I'm assuming like you can come, you usually come also in like helping find out the best ways to do that, right? And that's why you partner with development teams and you work with their, and so it's almost like you're if um if our fundraisers, and I know they're probably gonna get mad at me for calling them the salespeople, you're like their brain, right? Around how to best kind of close the deal of whatever that looks like. And I do love that because even though we always don't want to compare to for profits, there are things that I think overlap in the, you call it a sales pipeline. We call it donor stewardship and what that looks
Hmm.
like and at the touch point. And so I think, it's important that like we understand that like you can't just approach a donor without knowing anything about them. And I think that's really helpful where you come in to really maximize that interaction. Okay, and then we're almost at the end, so really love everything that you're giving, but we're gonna switch a little bit to because it's not just individual donors or major gifts or things like that, but you also do this for grants and large philanthropic organizations. So tell me the role that prospect research does also in grants, and you mentioned a little bit about that around stalking. Sorry, I'm not supposed to use the word stalking, but you know what I mean, uncovering. Or reading or understanding,
Yeah.
not even other things like that. But how does prospect research, what's the role that it plays when it comes to grant seeking?
Yeah, I think that prospect research for grants helps you define what you're exactly looking for. Because when I was doing a lot of that grant research, I was also working directly with program managers. And my first step was always sitting down with the program manager and being like, what do you need? Like, ignore everything else. What do you need right now? Do you need like a specialist teacher? Do you need like a speech language pathologist or somebody to come in? Do you need cold food storage? Do we need a program, a building expansion rather? And then knowing that and having those goals in mind, that's when my research started because there is grants for everything. And knowing that this is exactly what I'm trying to fundraise for brings it down to a more manageable level. And you can also look for like general support just to find just to find funding for any program that you have going on. But the program support is always out there. And doing that research helps you find those organizations and maybe helps you find connections within there too. Like, say that you have somebody on your board that knows somebody, they can connect you to that grantor and be like, hey, this organization's great. I'm on their board. This program is exactly what you give to. So let's connect here. But it gives you a realistic picture, I think, all that combined with like what you do, what you're trying to do, and helps you define your goals. Because in an application, you need to say, like, this is what I do, this is how I do it, this is why I do it well, and this is why I need your support. And like, am I looking for a grant to sustain or am I looking for a grant to expand? And that helps as well. You can really look for local giving as well. One of the places that I start when I'm looking for grants is by location. And for example, I'm in Chicago looking for maybe like arts organizations in Chicago if I'm trying to fundraise for a theater. Knowing that that's where I'm starting just helps open up everything. A researcher also can look at the grant guidelines quickly and go through. And to your point about analyzing and understanding it, reading these guidelines and being like, okay, do we qualify for this? Do we have the right budget for some of these? Knowing that's something that a researcher can do really quickly because you're going down, it's kind of like another tax document, like it's a technical document, a grant guideline, being very quickly being able to establish, okay, do we align? When is the due date? Can we do this? Okay, let's go. And writing it just is faster sometimes when like that's the thing that you're focusing on as a prospect researcher because it's fun to get in that little like research narrow window and be like, I'm in the IRS documents, like I'm doing all this fun stuff. But research, you know what I mean? Like you're hacking the mainframe.
No, but I'm laughing that you're calling like looking up IRS stuff fun.
It is, I think it's fun because you get to see like another thing too, say that you don't know how much you want to apply for. If the guidelines say like you can apply from $1,000 to $50,000, you can look online in the IRS documents, look at that organization's 990, see the similar organizations to you, see how much they've given to them, and then you can tailor your application based on
I
that.
love that. I
Isn't that
love
right?
that.
It's all in the 90s. It's just what line.
I love this. I love this. And I have a love-hate relationship with the knives, but absolutely. Okay, I want to make sure and be mindful of our listeners' times, but what is one practical step that nonprofit leaders, professionals can take to take their data, clean it up, or think differently about donor cultivation?
Yeah, I think the first step is be really intentional with what you're collecting and making sure that your donor information and your program information for either individuals or if you're going for grants actually make sense for your programs and are actionable. Like if you're serving people with a social program, how many people are you serving? If you're donating food, like how many pounds of food is it? How many meals? And on the other hand, knowing what you can't collect or what is private versus the stuff that's public that you can put in your annual report, like names and information for people beyond like your donor honor roll in your annual report. If it's like, if you work for a school, that information is clearly over here. But knowing we have this number of students, that's something publicly that you can have to show your impact and show year over year what you do. Because the sooner that you define those metrics and have the hard numbers for them, the easier it is to show your growth and to get to demonstrate in an application or to a donor what you've actually done. In that vein, too, defining the names of things across the organization seems like such a minor thing, but it is huge for everybody understanding the data. Calling things the same thing, like what do you call donors? What do you call a prospective donor, for example? What do you call different kinds of meetings? What do you call the people that solicit the gifts? I've worked at a ton of places, and almost every one has had a different name for these things, but everybody being on the same page helps your data just make so much more sense. And trying to be as up to date as you can. If you're doing like little audits, maybe start with like, these are the people that we know we want to reach out to, but we haven't talked to lately. Let's try to find their most up-to-date address information and really being strategic instead of like, I need to look up 3,000 addresses. Like you don't, you can triage it a little bit and you don't have to do everything at once. So just being intentional, defining things, like exactly what you're doing and why you're looking for it and what it's called, that will help so much with all kinds of applications, solicitations, stewardship, everywhere, because it shows that you have the most up-to-date information on you and them. So you're out there and you're aware, you know?
Yeah, I know, I love that, and I love that you also call them mini audits, like, you don't have to take this as a full project, you can start in small places. I also love the idea of defining and using the right terminology. That's something that's really important for organizations to start with. Oh my god, Kate, this has been amazing. I've learned so much. I will do my best not to call it stalking when I'm talking to our orgs. But it's also like it's such an easy word, like will stalk. But there's also like a beauty in understanding that. And I love that you're really focused on it. I remember when we first chatted around your services, you were like, we do this ethically. We are not like your crazy ex-girlfriend stalking you on Facebook. We are doing this. There is a science to it. There is
Mhm.
a way to attack this from a place where it's for both protecting also the information you find and the organization who's going to use it. And I think there's so much beauty in doing that. So yeah, prospect research is more than just names and numbers. It's aligning those resources with the mission, finding the right partners and building relationships. Kate is so excited to be here at Palante Nonprofits and to hopefully work with a lot of you in your prospect research journey and in getting new donors and in interacting better with your current donors. So thank you so much, Kate, for being here again.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
Yay.